We've got a stack of research from economists and historians,
Okay.
even a psychologist, all to answer one question. Why does innovation happen when it happens?
The timing is key.
Yes.
And it's fascinating because it's not about brain power, right? Our ancestors were just as smart as we are.
Hmm.
It's the world around those brains that
Yeah.
makes all the difference.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the most surprising things our sources pointed out is that early humans, like way early humans, were actually pretty big on equality. Not exactly what you picture when you think cave people, is it?
Hunter-gatherer life, you couldn't exactly build a mansion out of berries and antelope hides.
Right.
So sharing was essential.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But then, bam, the agricultural revolution hits the scene.
Everything changed.
Everything changes. Suddenly, you've got surplus, which means...
Some people have more than others.
Exactly.
It's not enough for everyone to just have enough anymore.
Right.
Now it's who has more.
Hello, private property, goodbye, perfect equality.
And with inequality comes this real head-scratcher. How do you justify having a lot when other people have very little?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Unfortunately, instead of fixing the imbalance, humans often took the easy way out, deciding that some groups were just better than others.
Cue the dramatic music. Enter the ruling elites.
They're here.
They've arrived. And this is where things get really interesting for innovation, or rather the lack of it. See, for centuries, anything new, any kind of change, it was seen as a threat.
Especially by those in power.
Of course, makes sense.
Disruption is scary when you're the one clinging to control.
If it ain't broke.
Exactly. And we see this really clearly with the Luddites.
Those guys smashing the textile machine.
Exactly. Now, you might think they just hated technology, but it was way deeper than that. They feared the massive societal shift that those machines represented. Their whole world was changing, and that's terrifying.
So we've got this situation where innovation is seen as this dangerous thing, right? But now, let's zoom out a little, look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
While other parts of the world are thriving in their own way, doing their own thing, Europe's a bit of a free-for-all at this point, fragmented, constantly at war. No single power calling the shots.
Oh, sounds messy.
Not exactly a recipe for stability, right?
Not really. You think all that chaos would stifle innovation?
You'd think so. But here's the thing. That's precisely where innovation exploded.
Why?
Because in that pressure cooker of competition, innovation wasn't a choice anymore.
It was a necessity.
Innovate or be conquered. Talk about a motivator.
That's intense. I can see why things took off.
And nothing highlights this more than the gunpowder revolution. Talk about a game changer.
Oh, absolutely. The constant need for military advantage, it led to huge advancements in weaponry.
Which then trickled down into other industries.
Exactly.
So it wasn't this noble pursuit of knowledge for knowledge's sake. It was more like, we need better cannons if we want to survive.
Survival is a great motivator.
Here's where this deep dive gets really cool. It connects these seemingly random dots.
All right, so picture this. New World silver flooding into Europe. And it's not just shiny treasure. It creates a global currency. Trade explodes. Countries are specializing in what they're good at.
It's all connected. So we've got this potato-powered population boom happening.
Yeah.
We've got a global economy all hopped up on silver. What's the missing ingredient in this innovation recipe? What's the secret sauce?
A good old-fashioned revolution in thought.
Oh.
And boy, did Europe get one.
Like what?
This is the era of the Protestant Reformation, right? Challenging the Catholic Church's authority. It's the rise of scientific skepticism, where people start demanding evidence, not just pronouncements from on high.
Show me the data.
Exactly. It's like humanity collectively decided to hit the question everything button.
And that questioning wasn't just allowed, it was encouraged.
Oh, yeah. Think about it. When you've got different religious factions, each one claiming to have the absolute truth, and none of them can definitively prove the others wrong, you're forced to find new ways of figuring out what's true. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how does this whole, like, show me the evidence mindset actually change the innovation game? How do we get from questioning religious dogma to inventing everything?
See, instead of relying on tradition, pronouncements from authority figures,
Right.
people start valuing observation, experimentation, testing assumptions against the real world.
And that's where, like, science as we know it really takes off.
Precisely. But it's bigger than just beakers and Bunsen burners. This new way of thinking, it revolutionized how people viewed technology and economics.
Interesting.
Like for centuries, many societies, they actually looked down on merchants and commerce. Some philosophers, they thought trade was a bit, well, grubby.
Grubby, huh?
Yeah. Beneath the dignity of contemplating higher ideals. If your whole worldview is built on this fixed social order, for anyone who profits from disrupting that order, they're seen as dangerous.
So how do we go from commerce is shady to the economic engine that drives the modern world? That's a huge leap.
And this is where things get really interesting. Our sources, they highlight this profound shift in how people viewed both innovation and commerce.
Okay.
It's almost like this ethical unlock happened when European elites realized that innovation and trade were essential for competing on the world stage. Those old prejudices,
Yeah.
they started to crumble. Survival trumped tradition.
It's amazing how quickly what we consider like acceptable or even admirable can change when our survival's on the line. It makes you wonder what shifts are happening right now that we haven't fully grasped yet.
And those brave cartographers of commerce and innovation, they didn't always have it easy. Remember that story from our research, the emperor who had an inventor executed?
Oh yeah, for creating unbreakable glass.
Can you imagine?
That's some next level risk aversion right there. But seriously, what was that emperor so afraid of?
Devaluation. So much of an empire's wealth was tied to precious metals. Gold, silver,
Right.
unbreakable glass, that threatened to undermine the whole system.
It really is a totally different way of looking at things. It makes you appreciate how far we've come.
Yeah.
Imagine if today's innovators were constantly looking over their shoulders, worried about losing their heads if their ideas were too disruptive.
I can't even imagine.
Right. So how do we bridge that gap? How do we go from off with his head to let's fund your startup?
A lot happened in between, but our sources pointed to some amazing quotes that really illustrate this ethical shift.
Oh, yeah. What?
There's this one from the economist Deirdre McCloskey that really stuck with me. She said that innovation is a trade-tested invention.
It has to actually prove itself in the real world.
Exactly. It has to work. And not just work, it has to be something people actually want.
So it's not about pleasing a king or an emperor anymore. It's about serving the needs of real people.
And that's a radical shift.
It really is. As we wrap up this deep dive into why innovation happens, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
It's easy to think about innovation as this straight line of progress.
Like it was all inevitable.
Yeah, but it's anything but. It's messy. It's unpredictable. It's often driven by forces we don't even understand at the time.
We think we've got it all figured out.
But then something comes along and throws everything for a loop.
Always. But that's part of what makes it exciting, right? This idea that the world is constantly changing.
Exactly. And that we are part of that change.
So no pressure, right? But seriously, it's a good reminder that innovation, it's not just about gadgets and gizmos.
It's about us.
It's about how we see the world.
And how we choose to change it.
Go out there, challenge some assumptions. Who knows? You might just spark the next big thing.
I can't wait to see what you come up with.